Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another show of Perspective on the Big Debate, Debate Cameroon platform. And today we're talking about everything football in Cameroon. We've touched on political topics. We've touched on socio-economical topics, healthcare, and we wanted to dedicate today to sports and especially football. Being that Cameroon is a football crazy nation, we saw it fit to talk about that particular domain. Today on the show, we have Elizabeth Akaya, who has been a lover of football since the age of 4, 5, as far back as she can remember. She grew up in a very football loving home and practicing home. She's a strong, devout supporter of the Lions, Indomitable Lions of Cameroon, and the Lionesses who unfortunately lost today. My sympathies to you, Elizabeth. Or how do I say my condolences to you? Um, and Elizabeth has a lot of passion on how to grow, how to transform that particular sport in Cameroon, and that's why we have her on the panel today. The other panelist is no other. You've known him on social media. He used to go by True Lion when he was a supporter of the Lions. My understanding is that is not no longer the case. So we need to change that nickname. He's no longer True Lion. He has a blog, True Three Football. He's a passionate writer, connoisseur of the game. You cannot shake this man off his belief. He could be wrong about something, and if he thinks that that's what it is, he's gonna give you his information as it should be. So we have some two very fierce, knowledgeable people about the subject of football in the panel, and I'm your host, Tres Catorz, and you've known me for a while now, so I'm no stranger to hosting the platform. So I'll let Elizabeth do the honors. Start. Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi, Rob Trias. Thank you guys for having me today. It's a great pleasure to be part of this platform. I've been looking forward to this opportunity, and I would like to use this opportunity again to apologize to the fans of Big Debate for, let me use True Lion's words, chickening out of the debate that was supposed to be held way back in November. And there were reasons behind that, and I'm glad that we all finally got to the same page, and we've worked through those differences, and we are here today to talk about Cameroon football.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And before I go to Enow, Ayukegba, aka True Lion, you will tell us if we need to change that. I'll ask the fans, the viewers who come on to please share, so we could have a lot more people join in and watch. So go ahead and share the page, and I'll go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, as you already know, I prefer to be called True Lion, and that has not got anything to do with the Lions, Indomitable Lions, or whatever. But well, as you know, I'm passionate. I like writing about football, be it the EPL, La Liga, whatever game draws my attention. But somehow I don't feel the same for the female game. I know you have tried to get me like write about the female game and all that, and it's also because of schedule. It's summertime, you have to take care of the kids and all that stuff. But yeah, I'm ready to have fun. Let's go.
Okay. All right. So I'll start swinging. Um, Elizabeth, this question is for you. In most developed countries, after a massive failure in any sporting activity, we saw Germany struggled a few years ago at some World Cup. I think it was '06. They had a catastrophic World Cup that year, and they went back to grassroots football. They went back to their schools. They went back and said, we need to start having a methodology. We need to have an ideology in our football. So we need to bring these kids playing our style of football. And when that program reached its maturity, we were able to see Germany dominate for a very long time. We've seen France through its Clairefontaine Academy do that. What is the impediment for Cameroon? What are the bottlenecks that are holding back such a program? When Cameroon was thriving back in the heydays, they used to have called the Foot de Brasseries, and we had so many players that came out of those institutions, and we flourished. We won back to back, and we won so many titles. We rolled. And what do you think now? It's the impediment. What is holding Cameroon back, and how do you think we move past that?
I think the main problem that Cameroon has is at the level of leadership. And let's start at the helm, Fecafoot. Fecafoot is supposed to be an independent body. But from the past occurrences, we've seen that they are not. There's a lot of influence at the level of Fecafoot coming in from the government, be it to the appointment of the officials, the decisions that are made, the funding, the coaching, the decisions, whoever, the selection of the coaches, all of those are the decisions made at those levels are influenced by the government. So it is a chronic problem in Cameroon. We've been crying over this for decades, and it doesn't seem to be going anywhere. We've seen, in recent times, FIFA has made strides to try to come between and, appoint a normalization committee to help resolve some of those differences and help to make sure that the government is not meddling in the affairs of football. I would say Fecafoot at this level, but that continues to happen. So that's number one, leadership. There is no clear accountability. And so even if we, wound up getting leaders, there is no clear accountability. Corruption is a mainstay in Cameroon. Nepotism is another problem. Tribalism is another problem. So it's just issues that are compounded by other issues, and it just doesn't seem to have, the Fecafoot doesn't seem to have a way of managing itself. The second issue that we have is funding and the way the funds are managed, misappropriation of funds. We hear that, for instance, 1.3 billion was disbursed to manage the women's AFCON or the women's World Cup, the ongoing World Cup. And most of the time you hear the complaints from the players, this money doesn't get to the hands of the players. They are not appropriately disbursed because people who are accounted, who are assigned to make sure that all the logistics that are needed for competitions of any sort to be, all the logistics to be in place. They are not doing what they're supposed to do. So there's operation at that level. We saw what happened at the Nations Cup in Limbe in 2017, for instance. We saw how the women's national team, for instance, they were poorly treated. They had poor transportation. For all we know, they stayed in substandard hotels, and some of them complained about meals and all of that. So they don't. The incentive is not there for these people for these players to give their all to the game of football. You have to start by motivating people. And for all we know, football is no longer an entertainment. A lot of these players see it as a source of living, just like you and I see, what we do now in our daily lives as a source of living. But if there are no incentives, if they are not motivated by being remunerated the way they are supposed to, then we're going to continue seeing some of these issues that we are seeing. Lackluster performances, they just show up for the sake of it and hope that they get, they get noticed by a foreign club and gets chosen, and of course they go on to play professional football where they can make more money. And that's why we see, even at the local level, teams. Let's talk about the local level. There is no grassroots football. There is none at all, because again it goes back to funding. The government is not funding the grassroots football. The pitches are poor in quality. There are no pitches. If you ask me, there are no good pitches in Cameroon for these people to play to the level where they can develop grassroots football and be able to compete professionally with their counterparts in other countries. The local league is suffering. There's no competition. The local leagues are not strong in Cameroon. I don't even remember the last time I heard of a good a local club in Cameroon performing well at the African level. Be it Union Douala, I don't even remember some of them, Canon Douala, and all of those. So it's not there. So you look at that, you look at the financial aspect, you look at government meddling in football matters, politics, of course, getting involved in football matters. And then there is also the issue of tribalism, man no man in Cameroon. Why do we have a national team and most of the players of that national team are coming from a particular tribe? Do you want to tell me that the Northwest, for instance, doesn't have good players, or the Southwest? We're mostly Bassas and Wondos and Betis, and then maybe one or two Bamilekes, and then one or two Anglophones. So that's another issue that we have. There is no clear balance, in the way the squad is selected. I don't know how much scouting they do. If it's if they scouting, they are limited to Littoral and the West province, but there is just no clear balance. And so, and then when you go back now to the local leagues, you see that the team in the Littoral and in the Central province, they clearly perform better than those coming from the Southwest. Another issue that we have is support. The Anglophones, for instance, are not into football that much compared to the Anglophones. So there is that issue of, our Anglophone brothers not getting the support that they need from us to be able to compete with our Anglophone counterparts. We are not ready to invest in our own. You go to a local game in Tico, for instance, the stadium is just about half empty. There are no spectators. But if you go to a similar game in Bafoussam or in Douala or in Yaoundé, you see everybody, a lot of people are there. Back in 20, I think when I was in Cameroon, I had the opportunity to attend a match in Douala with my older brother. And it was Union Douala playing against Tico United. And you'll be surprised how full that stadium was with supporters for Union and little or no support for Tico United. Meanwhile, there's a huge Anglophone crowd in Douala. So we have that issue of support, even amongst ourselves, and we are not doing anything to help.
Okay. So I heard you gave you touched on a lot of the problems. We'll come back to that because I think you went at length at identifying the problems, but I didn't hear you shape out exactly what you think would be the structure. But let me give Enow the same opportunity with the same question. If I could just touch on it again, or if you remember, you just want to take it and run, you could do that. We've seen this work in other countries. What is the problem holding Cameroon from going back to rebuilding its football?
Well, because they have never thought about rebuilding football in the first place. They've politicized football, and there's no foundation. There's no strong foundation for grassroots football, and this is nothing new. It's been this has always been the case. Even back in the 70s, when Canon, Union, Tonnerre, all those teams were doing well. Most players, football was interesting. It was not all about money, but it was about the love for the game. So how do you get the love for the game back to the people? Because it's about spectators. Football should be about, no matter where it is, or sports, even basketball, it should be about entertainment. First, it's an entertainment industry, the winning and all that. But in Cameroon, people think about football when World Cup is coming. People think about football when African Nations Cup is coming, and everybody wants to come and eat where they have not sown seeds. That cannot happen. Okay, look at after the success of 1990, what happened? We started seeing a call the food brasserie. Brasserie came up. They were going to tournaments, Montague and all that. People were excited back then. Then everybody started trying to make up their own a call the football, because the foundation, a good foundation, was not there. Where like coaches for kids would benefit from their hard work. Let's say if kids are doing well, I mean, they coach them and all that are doing well. Those coaches are paid well and all that, but they were not being paid. So what happens now? Nobody wants to be coaching those young kids. They want to be where they can make money, where they can pocket money, when they sell players and fake a foot signs of, release.
Hey guys, Enow, just 1 second. So, sorry for interrupting you. If anybody has a second device, could you lower the volume or mute that second device, like a phone or something running a game? Because I could hear, I think Enow, I could hear an echo coming from your side.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, well, let's go ahead. Carry on. I'm sorry for interrupting you.
So, I mean, the structures are not powerful in such a way that they can help the sports grow. It's all about national team. No one thinks about the local league, and that's where the entertainment is. Because if, let's say, a player back in Cameroon cannot survive from playing football, then there is no way your football is going to progress, because everyone is thinking about going abroad to play football. Do you know what's happening? I have a friend, Foy, is very much into football. I've tapped him. What's going on? The slavery, football slavery. You see, the people see Samuel Eto'o. They see the other professional players, and they feel that African footballers are doing well. No, they are not doing well. They are dying in Libya. They are dying in Libya. Football slavery is for real. Lots of these kids are not making it. So what's happening is because there's no grassroots. So what should be done? Everybody, I mean, the supporters, because, okay, last 2 years when Cameroon won African Nations Cup, I saw people going on the streets, being happy, running and all that. The government was also forcing people of the Northwest and Southwest, when there was war, in order to go celebrate these guys. Come on now. That is not the objective. I mean, we have to be real. If you want the government or things to change, fans have to show their anger. Cameroon, I'm not saying that you cannot watch your team play or blah, blah, blah. You can watch them, but there is a line to be drawn. You have to make them understand that we are not getting our own share of the cake. If that doesn't happen, then sorry, football is not going to progress in Cameroon.
All right. Thank you for that. And I just had another co-panelist come on board, Terrence Agbo. Thank you for joining us. And could you touch up on your own highlights?
Thank you very much, and good evening, everyone. Sorry for coming in late. I knew Tress has my back. And, I would like to welcome Elizabeth, who finally made it to debate Cameroon and the big debate perspective. So we are very, very grateful for that. Thank you very, very much, Enow, as well. Yeah, True Lion, this is time to express your true Lionism. So we are very, very delighted to have you. And I know you guys have already been talking about some of the issues related with Cameroon football. Unfortunately, I missed the first few minutes. And so I'll probably let Tres go ahead. That way I'll be able to rather get a radar of the direction you guys have been discussing before jumping in and start pushing you back to issues you've already discussed.
All right, thank you for that. Elizabeth, I find out that when I mute your volume from my end, that echo goes away. So I think that there should be another device somewhere, because when I mute you, we don't have that echo.
Device on. I switched off my cell phone.
Okay, that's fine.
Is it that interruptive?
Yeah, because we hear you twice, but that's okay. Let's we'll try to work through it. Okay, So we talked about the
Do you want me
problems.
to try? Do you want me to try putting on a headset?
All right, let's try that.
But yeah, give it a shot.
Okay.
But it just looks so beautiful like that.
Oh,
You don't want any.
oh my goodness. Let me try a headset and see.
Okay.
Is it better?
It sounds a lot better. So
Okay.
we talked about the problems for Cameroon. So like we're still in the context of Cameroon, local football, and before we get onto the national teams and all of that stuff. So we saw Cameroon lose out on the Nations Cup because my personal belief out of sheer poor management and carelessness and everything in between. But we've seen that they're building some stadiums, so we'll have some infrastructures in the next few years. The Olembe Japuma is on the it's progressing. I think Olembe is stalling. One of the other, but one of them is progressing. But bottom line, we're having stadiums coming up. And do you think that in the next few years we would see the local league play in a better, at least better touch about the pitches, play in better quality stadiums, and which would directly impact the quality of football that's being played? And Enow also touched the issue of the players, the survivability of players taking football as a career. So with these stadiums and these infrastructures that are being built, how can we use it to add more value, bring more money into local football? How do you add on top of that? Because we saw in South Africa that the fact that they built the World Cup stadium, it became a burden for the country just maintaining those stadiums. So if Cameroon doesn't want to be saddled with white elephant projects like huge stadiums, how do they manage these stadiums and still monetize and be able to pay these players? I'll have Enow take this one, and then Elizabeth will come back to you.
First of all, I will tell you this, it's a pity. Do you remember 10 years ago, we had a conversation about, I think it's Mbunda or Bambutu Stadium, Municipal Stadium, where they built those 2,000 seat stadiums. And not even a year after that, the pitch was like, I mean, the reality is that Cameroon cannot manage the pitches because the politics is wrong, okay? The stadiums are still owned by municipalities. They should privatize those things, or they should give it out for rent, where business people can actually invest by maybe concerts, can do concerts, can rent out to organize football and all that, because the government or the municipal, they are not organized in such a way where they can make funds in order to take care of those stadiums. Even look at the reunification stadium that used to be in Douala and all that. Do you know that when they put artificial pitches on those stadiums and all that, it didn't take up to 6 months, a year, and all that, and those things were stolen?
Yeah, and sorry, let me interject there. Sorry about that. And just to highlight on what Enow is saying, I think it's all about the contracts. The people who take the contracts don't do an efficient job. And we know governments everywhere have these difficulties of chasing people to do effective contracts. So, but if an individual owns something, they are able to do everything to make sure whatever they wanted, they meet those requirements. So, like if the municipality is owns the stadium, or if the government owns the stadium, the government has just as many people, not that many people who can look after those stadiums. Not that many people. They can't hire people to clean the stadium, to do to look after the grass. So that's a very difficult thing to do. And also mention, like, if you are going to build a stadium for only football, it's going to be very, very difficult to have money back, because if an individual owns it, like he mentioned, Also, you can rent out the stadium, people for example, like concerts and many other things, other activities in the during holidays, and this could be income raising activities. But most importantly, I think the major problem we are having with the stadium generally is the contract. The people who take the contract don't do an efficient job, and because it's the government, so no one is there to
implement
for efficient quality control, because anything which is built, just look at the road, look at the Buddha Stadium and not mentioned. Not after 3 games, the whole stadium was full of potholes. Even the Limbe Stadium recently, we saw wind blew off the roof a few months ago. The stadium, the grass was dying in the field. If an individual owns that, they will be capable to cater for their property. Now, because it's a government, everyone is a government, so no one is practically looking after anything. So, Enow, sorry for that interruption. You can continue with your point.
Yeah, and that's true. And also with the bad economy, people don't have money, people are out of jobs and all that. It's going to be very difficult. So what is the government actually doing? What are they doing in order to get things better? Because football has been bread and butter for many people 30 years, 40 years ago, but it's not that easy anymore. I talked about football slavery. These things are for real. I mean, after this, if some of you have the time, go to YouTube and type football slavery. It's mostly happening in Africa. And why is that happening in Africa? Because we think that everything abroad is actually good. I mean, people are forced to go abroad because they're watching, on social media, on TVs and all that, how these footballers are making money and all that. But the truth is that we don't have a foundation. African players don't have something to fall back. Let me give you an example. Look at Ronaldinho. When he left Barcelona, he went to AC Milan and all that, and football was not working out right for him. What happened? He went back to Brazil, and he was still one of the top earners. A lot of Argentinas, South Americans, I'm talking about countries even like Ecuador, that are not open, that are third world countries. Their players go back and still earn a living back because there is a foundation. There is that structure for them. But if you don't have that structure, if you cannot do the little things, look at this guy. I was 5 years ago when Semenge was still president of Take Us. And today, the same Semenge, I don't know if he's 100 years old, he's the one controlling the league. We don't even have a timetable. They don't even have a timetable of the league. Can you imagine that? They don't even have a timetable of the local league. So again, I mean, if you want to get serious, it starts with the fans, because the government has realized they want to politicize everything. So if the fans cannot, like African Nations Cup is coming and all that, come on, boycott. I mean, if you want the government to, you have to boycott those things. Even if you're watching, I know the ratings don't work in Africa like they do over here, where everybody has a TV at home. You turn it on and all that, the ratings go high and all that, but they go to the bars and all that. But don't write about it, don't talk about it, talk in your small communities, but you have to show them that you are serious about it. If you don't show the government that you're serious about it, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Enow. I'll bring Elizabeth into this conversation right now. But again, we've dwelled so much on the problems, right? We've identified so many flaws in the system. There have been scenarios where we've blamed the government, and there are places where we say the government is not supposed to be accountable and should not manage Fika food. Elizabeth, to that same question that I asked Enow, could you construct solutions, possible solutions that you think would bring money into Cameroonian football, where a parent can let their child, boy or girl, go into football because they believe that playing locally they can earn an income, and also relate that to the projects that are going on that should not end as white elephant projects?
So for a start, I would like to address your very first question with regards to whether the local league is going to improve as a result of all these, new stadiums that are coming up. And the answer to that is yes. It is going to improve. Japoma and the other one in Yaoundé are state-of-the-art stadiums. They meet international standards. If why are you laughing? They are state-of-the-art stadiums, whether you agree with me or not. They are. They meet FIFA standards. If the construction, if the project carries through to completion. So that is the condition there for that statement to take effect. So yes, it is the local league is going to improve significantly, because we would have our boys and our girls and our kids playing on turfs that are, comparative to turfs at the, countries outside of Africa, or even North Africa, for instance. I'll give an example. If you go to YouTube and just Google GTAP, Jeremy GTAP, and the Bafoussam Stadium, the new stadium that was constructed in Bafoussam. Jeremy GTAP, I believe he wasn't faking it just because he's from the West Province, specifically applauded the quality of that stadium. I have not been there, but I've seen pictures. And if you look at that, you would agree with me that it is a good structure. Now, to the issue of the quality of the stadiums, what is coming up now, in Yaoundé
Elizabeth, sorry, I don't. We didn't question the quality. We're saying the long-term maintenance of those structures, and how, in return, how it would be beneficiary to the players, country, and how we can monetize local football.
So I'm coming.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is, what we're having now in Douala and Yaoundé are not just stadiums; they are sports complexes. So it's not just a standalone stadium that's going to be sitting there and waiting for the next football match to take place. There are cinemas that are coming up there. There's a cinema at the Olympic Stadium. There's a cinema. There is a shopping mall in the area. So there are little things like that. And I believe that when that project was put in place, they took into consideration the fact that just having a structure standing there and waiting for football matches, it's not going to benefit us financially in the long term, because you're going to be spending money doing renovations and maintaining the place with nothing coming in. So having those miscellaneous, I would say the other little projects around there, the cinemas and the shopping mall, are going to be an income stream to the government. And so those would be used in turn, I'm hoping, to maintain the stadiums, the structures. That is where I'm going with that. And I'm hoping that becomes the case. It's not going to be a case where, the money comes into shopping malls and whatever, and then it goes into somebody's coffers. That money should be going back to maintain those pitches and keep it, to a level where we can continuously have these games organized and going on, so that, you see those quality of stadiums, and we'll be able to organize, more competitions. So if there are more competitions that are going to be organized on good quality stadiums, then the little mom on the side is going to be like, wow, I think my child should consider football, as a career path, because there are more competitions coming in, be it Total, Coca-Cola, Sonel, whoever, all those companies. We need to organize all those competitions. And if the everyday mom or everyday dad sees those things, those competitions being organized on state-of-the-art pitches, being maintained appropriately, then we would see more, kids and getting more interested in football. Now, the other part, on the aspect of maintenance, I think the government should take its hands off maintenance. You and I know, from way back, even before our parents were born, that Cameroon, is deplorable when it comes to maintenance. The government cannot maintain anything. I'm saying that without mincing my words. They are good at putting up new structures. The structures that will cost 6 times more than it's supposed to cost. But when it's up and done, and besides, it's going to be, it's just going to be a nasty job that doesn't really meet any real, construction specifications. They'll put out something just for the sake of it. It's there. And, in 6 months, it's gone because there's no maintenance. And to the point of Terence and Enow, they should privatize. If they cannot privatize the ownership of the structure, they should privatize the operational maintenance of those facilities, because that's the only way that we can guarantee, because the private sector takes things seriously. It's a money-making stream for them. And so they're going to do everything to make sure that those stadiums or those structures are maintained. And I think that's pretty much it. The issue of maintenance, the government should take their hands off, and we're too complacent with, the government doing this and the government doing that. It's time for us to stand up like the Nigerians and the Ghanaians are doing. We have to stand up and take our own initiative, the private sector, and make changes, put things in place with the support of the government to have, to make things look better for our country. We would be the ones, trust me. Tomorrow we would be the first people to totally ignore the fact that there is a bathroom in the stadium and go and pee at the corner of a chair.
Yeah, and I'll let her finish. It will be your turn. And so thank you very, very much, Elizabeth, for that input. I think you said a lot of things, and a lot of them made so much sense. And I hope someone is listening out there and will be able to take some of those issues into consideration. Like one of the issues you mentioned is that hopefully when these stadiums eventually being built, I don't know if they will ever be finished, Cameroon will be able to organize some competitions that will help the people around. Hopefully Cameroon will be able to organize a competition, because I'm not sure they can organize one as we speak. So, Enow, to you, I know you've been raising your finger. You have something burning to you didn't want to forget.
He was about to yank the mic from Elizabeth.
I'm telling you exactly.
You have to give the lady a chance to finish her point.
So now ask Elizabeth, how long did it take the to nominalize Fecafoot? Was it like since 2009 that problem started in Fecafoot? The problem is that we have to be real. We have to face reality. I will tell you, even in the next 10 years, our local leagues will not be at an acceptable level, because we are lying to ourselves. That's how I'm going to put it. For me, the way to fix Cameroon football, I think there was what we used to play interquartier. You guys all remember interquartier and all that. We should go back, because it was locals, like people from your neighborhood and all that, local kids and all that. Because for me, that's the fun of football. Looking at your local kid, or looking at maybe a neighbor's or a brother's kid playing, that for me, that's the love of football. If we can start back from interquartier and those, because how much is a player playing in Cameroon now earning? They're earning maybe 50, 60,000, I bet
if they're even paid, because the last time we checked,
exactly. So I bet you guys, if you give football back to the locals, because you guys are talking about Japuma, talking about some type of mystery, like Elizabeth. I was shaking my head. Elizabeth said that we build beautiful structures. What beautiful structures?
It's a beautiful structure. What are you talking about?
Are you kidding me? We don't need 40,000, 60,000 seated stadiums in Cameroon. We don't, because we cannot manage 2,000 seated stadiums. How do you go from, if you cannot manage 2,000 seated, can you manage this 40,000, 60,000? Do you know how much it costs for a team to play on the stadium, and after that it's been taken care of? Do you know how much? Do they have the money to play on those stadiums? I remember a league game was supposed to take place, and the teams in Yaoundé did not even have where to play, because Fecafoot or the Minister of Sports said that Yaoundé stadium was closed. The lighting and all that. Do you know how much it costs? So if Cameroon is serious, stop building 40,000, 60,000 stadiums that you cannot manage. Build 10,000 seats. Build 5,000 seats that small teams with low budgets can manage and can play there before you start building 40,000, 60,000 seats. That's reality. That's accepting your You see? Because
I will totally disagree.
I think that's a good point, but you can't host any international competition on a 10,000.
Are we ready? Are we ready? In the next 10 years, you think Cameroon can host anything? Please.
Can I just say something? Can I just say something?
Go ahead, yeah.
Let me finish. Just give me 1 minute. Just give me 1 minute. Let me finish.
Sure.
You cannot host a league. Cameroon cannot host a league. league. I'm talking about local league, because we took 1.5 years to finish a local league. So if you cannot host a local league, you believe you can host CAN?
They just hosted the 2016 edition of the Women's Nations Cup. I mean, that's to their credit. I mean, it was flawed, but to their credit, they did host the international competition.
So you are talking about the country that has won 5 African Nations Cup. Is it 5 or 6? You're talking about a country that has won 5 African Nations Cup, and your level, the standard you're bringing me is the women's, where you need only 2 stadiums.
Enow is ready to flip. All right, can I just?
Okay, Enow, yeah. I think, yeah. You've made your point, and I definitely understand. I side with you on this particular issue, but in the meantime, let Elizabeth make her point.
Yes, let me make a point here. I think gone are the days when, we used to see, like I said earlier, we used to see football as an entertainment. It's no longer an entertainment. It's an entertainment to some, to those of us who do not play the game, but it is a source of living to those who play the game. I was looking up some stats, the other day, and there are 900 and I think there are 908 women that are registered with FECAFOOT for foot, as footballers. And for the men, I don't have the numbers. And those numbers are increasing more and more. Now, Cameroon as a nation has come a long way with respect to football. We are regarded as one of the best in Africa, irrespective of our current circumstances. We are regarded as one of the best in Africa.
Always circumstances.
We have a history. Yes, we have a history to ourselves that no other country in Africa has. And we were the first as Cameroonians to badge the government for not being able to host a competition when I think it was in 2015 that Morocco chickened out after the Ebola outbreak, and was it Equatorial Guinea that had to step in and host it? We were the first. And Enow, I remember your post, you were the first to say, hey, small Equatorial Guinea, the host, Usa Cameroon Day. Small Gabon, the host, Usa Cameroon Day. And so if you and I are sitting here and you are talking about a 5,000 capacity stadium to prepare our kids, to improve on the local league, I don't think, I don't think, that is enough, because if the ambition for every footballer in Cameroon is to play international football. And we cannot play international football if we limit them to 5,000 capacity stadiums that obviously will not meet FIFA or CAF standards.
Yeah, I think, yeah,
we will
Elizabeth,
not be able to. Yes, we will not be able to host. Cameroon as a country has to be able to host the African Nations Cup, and if not, the World Cup one day. When it gets to a point where an African nation has, can host, we can co-host with, say, Ghana or Nigeria. It happens.
Elizabeth, South Africa already hosted.
Yeah, Elizabeth, thank you very much for that point. I think the point Enow is making, trying to make, especially to develop the local league, you wouldn't go to Mamfe, for example, to build a 25 or a 30,000 stadium and expect it to be useful. That is just cautious wastage of resources. But if you build a 5,000 stadium in Mamfe or 2,000 in Mamfe, you expect that every second division game is almost going to get full. That is just for the local league, the development of the local league. Then for the national and international league, like the stadium we have now, hopefully they get completion. Like the Japoma, I've heard a lot of very good stories about the stadium itself, though the access to the stadium is very is terrible. The roads are really very, very dilapidated. I've heard a lot of very good stories about this Olimbe Stadium, and then the Mispo Stadium, or the Amadu Ayo Stadium. That is also a good one, as well as the one in Limbe, Bafusam, and the other one in Douala. So those ones can always host international. Oh, before I forget, the one in Garoua as well. Those ones can host international competition, but like international competitions only come once in a blue moon. you host the African Nations Cup. Now, only countries like Gabon have broken the record to host 2 international competitions within 8 years. But in most cases, they come once in a blue moon. You don't want to waste that much resources to just wait for international competition that will come maybe once in like 10 or 20 years. So ideally, not that I think the government can do this, but even if it's business people or the private sector who want to invest in this game, then they should be looking, instead of going to Kumba and building a stadium of like 50,000 people. Okay, because Kumba is a little bit more populated than Manfi, maybe you do between 15,000 and 20,000. That way you may be able to, every single game you should be able to get some money. The cleaning as well and even looking after the stadium will make will be reasonable. But we still need those international standards to them, the big ones with the 30,000, 50,000 or 75,000.
It's a fair, I think it's a fair balance. We do need them.
Yes, yeah, we do need them. So, Tres, I think it's your turn you are the chief moderator. So I shouldn't talk more than you.
Elizabeth, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't see her. Her screen went dark.
Really?
She's here. I can see her.
Yeah, she's here.
You probably need to do something. Press.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's drift away first from the local football and move to the international scene. We've talked about all of this stadiums that have been built out in Cameroon right now. Elizabeth, let me start with you. Talk to us a little bit about the failed African Nations Cup. Let's get your take about that situation that happened. I'm just gonna let you take your 4 or 5 minutes to just tell us what happened, what transpired, and what has the government done so far to ensure that 2023, is it 2023 or 2021, would not be a repeat of 2019.
So I shouldn't glisser encore.
Yeah, like my Francophone brothers would say, glisser under that.
Okay, so as far as the hosting of the AFCON 2019 goes,
see, I can't hear Elizabeth. I don't know if she's talking.
Tres,
I can hear her.
We can
I
hear.
think Tres, I think you have a problem. You have audio issues.
Okay, so so Tres, just send her.
So let me.
Maybe you knock her out and bring her in back. Can you hear Enow?
I can hear you and Enow. I can see both of you. I just can't. Her screen just went dark. But on my Facebook feed, I could see her. Maybe I could hear her from there.
So you are the one.
Yeah, try doing that then.
No.
You are the one causing that noise.
That noise has been going for a very long time now.
Oh, okay. So while we are trying to sort that issue, okay, maybe while you are thinking on what we can do with that issue,
let Elizabeth go ahead and talk. That's fine.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Well, so with respect to the hosting of the AFCON, CAF says, the delays in infrastructure. The infrastructure were not ready. Stadiums were not ready. Hotels were not ready. Roads are not ready. And then they talked about insecurity in the 2 regions, the Southwest, Northwest, and also, the Boko Haram impact in the far north. I can hear an echo. Somebody's making a.
Yeah, that's you using Facebook.
Trias, you might want to mute your Facebook.
Yeah, are you using another device? Are you trying to broadcast from Facebook?
Yeah, because I can't hear her, so I'm listening from Facebook.
Okay. So Elizabeth, hold on for a moment. I think we will come back to you. Tres, could you
log out and log in?
Yeah. Maybe you log her out and then you log.
No. Tres should log out and log back in.
Yeah.
No, if I log out, I'll log all of y'all. Let me take Elizabeth off and then I'll bring her back.
Okay.
Yeah. Tres is the host, so.
Okay.
And I know you can carry on with that question while I try to sort Elizabeth's.
Okay, just Dr. T, remind me, what was the question again?
Okay, so the question is, all right, yeah, so we've had this discussion before about the failed hosting of the African Nations Cup. So firstly, what happened, why it happened, what is the hope for Cameroon now, and do you think the country has made, the administration has made good decisions to ensure that Cameroon will be able to host the African Nations Cup in 2021?
No, I think it will be a miracle if Cameroon will be able to host in 2021.
So can you start with the problems? What transpired? What happened? Why was Cameroon unable to host the African Cup of Nations?
I think they were granted rights to host 3 years, 4 years ago, and they did not start giving out contracts just 2 years ago. So which means that there was always going to be a delay. Because I mean, that's how Cameroon, and the contracts they were handing contracts to family members and all that. So there was no accountability. And up till date that we are talking, none of the stadiums. The Nations Cup begins in something like 2 weeks in 2 weeks, right? And I remember the minister coming out and said that when they were trying to get extension, they were boasting that by March it was going to be ready. But up to date, stadiums are not seen. None of the stadiums are actually ready. So it's that thing again that I keep saying, we keep deceiving ourselves, keep deceiving ourselves. Even those who embezzled money, nothing has been done to them. Nothing has been done to them. So there is no accountability. So where do you think the extra money is going to come again for the country to be able to organize in 2021? So I don't believe it's going to happen because the country, again, is spending a lot of money in the 2 wars that is in the country. So basically, there's no money even to build. You need to build roads, you need to build hotels and all that. And there were some businesses that invested lots of money because they knew the Nations Cup was coming and all that. And those guys are out of their money. Nobody's actually talking about them because that's what the CAF, I think CAF gave Cameroon 2021 because we remember 2021 was supposed to go to Ivory Coast. So CAF actually negotiated 2021 so that Cameroon should not lose its money. But the way things are going, I don't think Cameroon will be able to host in 2021 because there's no honesty, there's no accountability, and it's a sickness. It's not that type of sickness where you just eradicate it by word of mouth. No, it's a system. The system is rotten. Those old men up there.
But before you continue, I've heard some people say Cameroon wasn't capable or able to happen or didn't get ready because CAF changed the rules midway. They were supposed to host 16 countries. Then all of a sudden, sometime in the middle, they changed it to 24 countries, I believe.
True.
So do you think that is?
No, that's not an excuse because when they changed the engagement rules, Cameroon did not complain about it. And you know why? Because deep inside them, they were not about hosting. They did not want to have a situation where the CAF will take the competition away from them. Because guess what? Samuel Eto'o, most of those, Roger Milla and all that, those are the guys who voted for Ahmad. They are Cameroonians. They voted for Ahmad. Keep in mind that they're the ones they said they wanted new blood. So Ahmad going into that Nations Cup, they knew that they were going to increase because that's where he got votes from the small countries, right? Because he told them, you know what, I'm going to increase the number of teams from 16 to 24. So I'm going to give you guys chances to get. So that's how they voted him in. So I don't think that's just an excuse. That's just an excuse because they knew from get-go. And people like Samuel Eto'o and all that, they campaigned for Ahmad and they got him voted against. Because bear in mind, if it was a Cameroonian dude that was still there, Cameroon would have hosted this Nations Cup, even if the stadiums were not complete or whatever. They would have hosted this Nations Cup.
Yeah, another thing is one of the biggest issues, apart from the state of the stadium you mentioned, also the war, the insecurity. Like I was watching a video the other day from one of the TV shows in Cameroon. So that was when, I think it was late last year or maybe early this year, when the student was killed, was stabbed in Douala and taken to the hospital. So a few days later, this gentleman came to the TV and said, like, Cameroon wanted to host the African Nations Cup. They don't even have basic reanimation, so basic hospital facilities. So is that like one of the most serious reasons that CAF categorically ruled Cameroon out, the absence of reanimation or health facilities, because these players are professionals. They have to be taken care in state-of-the-art facilities, especially acute care.
Yeah, I mean, that's also a very serious issue, because keep in mind, you guys, they were granted, the rights to host 4 years ago, but they did not start giving out contracts till 2 years down the line. So it just shows that the people or the leaders are not serious. It's all about getting themselves rich, but it's not about taking care of little things that even themselves could profit from. Because if you don't have these health facilities, emergency care and all that, I mean, how do you want to host? Imagine how many thousand people come to soccer games. How many thousand people have to use that road? How many thousand people have to use emergency services? Then if there's a problem, what is going to be a chaos? I think it's maybe a luck that Cameroon did not actually host, because maybe if there was to be an emergency, what would they have done in order to solve that emergency?
Okay, so now that you've listed most the problems, do you think the administration, the Cameroon government, the federation, or whoever is responsible for this, organizing this competition, especially looking after this infrastructure, have they made the right decisions to make sure this doesn't repeat itself again in the coming years?
And let me, and before you answer that, let me throw in a caveat while we're still waiting for Elizabeth to jump on board. The president of that country, Paul Biya, recently created a commission in his usual way of solving every problem, creating a commission. It's for 2021. It's a good enough time for them to prepare and plan. Do you think that is a good measure to add up with? I think I have Elizabeth back. That's a good measure to make sure that the Nations Cup that's coming up would be a success. This commission that was recently just created.
No, I don't think that's a good measure, because if you look at the people in the commission, those are the same people that have been failing for about 30 years. And as I said, we have to be serious about certain things. If you cannot organize a local league, how can you organize a Nations Cup? It's not something, because just take an example, right? Even coaches, like we see coaches, very few coaches, let's say Zidane, Pep, we see them come out and they hit the road. They hit the road running. I mean, when you come up as a new coach, even as a doctor, and whatever profession, there's that time where you learn. There's that time where you learn, where you get better at doing things. But no, that doesn't happen in Cameroon. In Cameroon, they bring you and they think that because you have credentials or because you know somebody, then they put you somewhere. And like as I said in Pidgin, they need the fit file for market day. Everything they do is in a haste. I mean, there's no accountability. Even when they fail, they don't learn from it. They don't learn from the failures. So why don't you organize a league? When you fail, you learn from that and get it better. The same league that has been failing for the past 30 years, we have Semenge, he's at Linafoot or whatever they call it, but he's not engaged in such a committee, but they've looked for different people and put in such a committee and that don't know the left and the right. So I don't think it's gonna work. It's just they just
all right, let's bring Elizabeth in since she's back. And Elizabeth, sorry for that inconvenience. I wasn't able to see or hear you. Yeah, could you share with us your perspective on this? And again, we know the country we're talking about, so we know all the problems. Guide us through what you think would be possible solutions on how. I mean, the failures. Let's talk a little bit about what happened, and then tell us, since they're hosting the next edition, what would be in their best interest and what path to follow so that should be a success.
So, as far as what happened, we all know what happened. CAF had their requirements. And when they came and did their inspections, I think they came 3 times. They alarmed us, the second time they came, that there were significant delays, and I didn't see any reaction from the powers that be to make sure that those concerns that CAF put forth at the time, were addressed. Unfortunately, we wound up in a state where when they came for the final inspection, the infrastructure was not there. Now, come to find out, and these are allegations that I cannot vouch for, but we are being told that a lot of the contracts were awarded to private companies, and most of them did not go through the due process for procurement. Now, if we look at the Cameroon ministry, the government structure, there is a ministry in charge of public contracts. So my question is, how were these contracts awarded to private companies without going through the procurement process? Now, we all know that's, it's something that we will never get an answer to. So long story short, corruption, again, is what led us to the state we found ourselves in when CAF came in. Some of the firms, I'm being told, did not have sufficient funds. 2018, they were seeking for funds to continue construction work. For instance, the Gara Stadium. And at that time, construction has ceased for months because they did not have money to pay their workers. So there was no work going on.
I mean, as we speak, the same thing is still happening.
Exactly. So my question is, going back to the government, was there a committee that was in charge of carrying out occasional audits to monitor the progress of these projects? If there was, then Garwa should never have been where it was when CAF came in. Again, that goes back to where who we are as as a country. Maybe there's a committee, they went there and they were paid off to keep silent. Who knows? I do not know. So bottom line is, corruption killed us. We do not have the infrastructure. In as much as I argue with Enow all the time, we did not have the infrastructure in place on time for CAF to commit such an important tournament into the hands of Cameroon. I mean, this is the most prestigious tournament in the continent. And CAF was not ready for Cameroon to take it down the drain because of our irresponsibility. Now, we talk about security and all. We all know those, security concerns and all. That's something we cannot argue much about because, yes, those were genuine concerns. Now, as far as 2021 goes, if Cameroon has to host 2021 and keep a clean record and get this reputation of corruption off its neck, the government needs to be more serious with respect to accountability. It's not just about a minister coming on TV and saying the work is going to be done and we'll be able to host in 2021. No, we want to see, pardon?
On sera prêt le jour-ci.
Exactly, that is not enough. We want a monitoring in place. And as Cameroonians, I think the government owe us that responsibility to keep us informed this time around of the progress of this work, because we are all concerned. I mean, we were ridiculed. Even countries that do not have, 8,000 capacity stadium ridiculed us. Football giants, and here we are. We cannot even do anything. So government, we just don't want to hear, it's going to be done. We want to see progress. We want to see, okay, we went there on the 25th. This is what has been done. We went there 3 months afterwards. This is where we are, where we were on the 25th. And this is where we are 3 months after that. We want to see that kind of a progress. If that doesn't happen, then we will just be in a limbo. We will just, be waiting and hoping that it's going to happen in 2021. And I truly agree with Enow. If we continue down this path, 2021 might not happen.
It will not happen.
There's a lot of things at stake. I can agree with you for once. There are a lot of things at stake.
That's fantastic.
That's right.
Okay,
Excuse me.
let's because we're
Let me
running in on
finish my
time.
point. Yeah, let
Go
me
ahead,
just
go
finish
ahead.
your point. Yeah, just
Go
1 minute.
ahead.
Because there are a lot of things that could ultimately cause us not to see this happen in 2021. Trust me, if there's a change in government today where President Paul Biya is no longer president, forget about 2021. It's not happening. That is a big one. Secondly, if the Anglophone crisis continues, forget about 2021. If Boko Haram continues, forget about 2021. If Kamto supporters start a new, a revolution, 2021 is gone. So there is a lot at stake. And we are just hoping at this point that the government is going to be more proactive, more responsible, more accountable, and restore that confidence. We've never had confidence in the first place, but they owe us that confidence this time around.
Yeah, and let
Thank
me
you.
just address. Yeah, let me just add of the other things we need to. You can say we should forget about 2021 if they happen. If the current commission that handled the failed Nations Cup, which has been reappointed to handle the 2021 Nations Cup, continues, they forget about 2021 as well, because the same old people doing the same old thing and expecting a different result.
Can I add one more? If you keep
Exactly.
supporting a true one like Samuel Eto'o, forget about 2021.
Oh, forget it. I will support whoever I want to support. Someone has nothing to do with with Chopoma and Olembe not being ready. It's not Samuel's fault.
Yeah, I think we shouldn't go that
Yeah,
track.
We shouldn't go that route.
We can leave that. Yeah.
But anyways, I want us to move on to a different topic. But before we do, I want to touch on something that Elizabeth said. In terms of projects, when you have a long-term project like 2021, you need short-term projects to measure if you are on track to achieve your long-term project. And Cameroon has this history of always aiming at that long-term project, but not able to break them down in little bits to measure, are we going to attain that long-term project? So that was a good point that you did raise. So the Women's World Cup.
Sorry, before you go to the next point, and like also Elizabeth also mentioned, I think it would be a good idea for the administration or whoever manages this project to be accountable to the public, because a few months ago we remember a gentleman who calls himself, or I should with all due respect, is the project manager of one of the stadium. He came and told the Cameroon public that he bought a bag of cement for 16,000 francs CFA. The cost of a bag of cement is 3,000 francs, or at most 4,000 francs. So this is like 6 times the price. This is gross
inflation, cost exaggeration.
Exaggeration and abuse of the Cameroonian people. This is like telling the Cameroonian people that you people are so stupid to even let us tell you that we can host the African Nations Cup. So these kind of things need to stop. We know them, and hopefully someone is listening to them. We are not against you, but we just think whatever you are doing is not the right thing. And you are putting the life and prestige of at least 25 million people, if my stats are correct, on the line. This is totally unacceptable. And it's high time you start listening to the people. If the people are crying over something, then something is definitely not right. It's not as if we hate you. No one hates you. We really don't care what you do with your money. But at least if you are giving money to do something, do it for the people, and do it to give an account for the people who paid you the money. Yeah, Trace.
Thank you. So the next 2 segments, we're going to touch on the current edition of the Female World Cup 2019, and then after that, we're not going to stay on those topics too long. And then after that, we're going to talk about the upcoming African Nations Cup in Egypt. So I'll do the honors with Elizabeth going with this one first. I know the World Cup just started. We just rounded up the first round of games, all groups, and we're in the second round of games. We have 2 African teams that have already been eliminated. Nigeria won its game. What is your overall take so far? And have you seen any progress from Canada? We were all moved when we watched Canada 2015. Has there been any progress, Elizabeth, in the women's game compared to Canada? And do you think that that progress is good enough for their demand to be paid exactly what the men are being paid? They want to be paid in terms of the World Cup context. They want to be treated exactly as the men are being treated with how much money FIFA is putting into the male version of the World Cup. When you look at everything, turnout, quality of play, and a whole host of other issues, do you think that the women's football is of age, it's ripe, and FIFA needs to put in much more money to the tune of the men's football?
Okay, so I think you've asked me a lot of questions. All right. So I'll start with
Yeah, I think we could probably start with your overall assessment of the Cameroonian team performance
right.
in the World Cup. I mean, they've played 2 games.
Yeah. So in 2015, they put up a surprising performance. We did not expect them to get to the round of 16 like they did. And in fact, I think one of their matches, they actually beat Ecuador 6-0. And that was historic. And, so they did put up that performance, and they placed themselves, in a very good position, having never qualified for the World Cup before. I think the first international um, exposure they had was at the Olympics in 2012. So fast track past 2015, they've played in two African Nations Cup back to back. They were impressive in 2017 when they played the finals and were beaten by Nigeria. And unfortunately, the last one they only made it to the third place. So I would say they've made significant progress on at the time on that the coach they had, Gachu.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask you a question.
Yeah, but coming into this France 2019, the hopes were very high. Even though they were placed in a very tough group with Canada, who are fifth, they are fifth in the FIFA World Rankings. Netherlands they are the current UEFA champions.
Yep.
New Zealand, they don't have, too much, but I would say they are a pretty good team as well. Having put up a tough show against the Netherlands. So they were in a tough group, but at the same time, we were hoping for a surprise, but that hasn't been the case. And I think I would say it has to do more with the fact that they probably did not have enough preparation. I think they only had like two friendlies. They only played like two friendlies before the competition. And then second of all, they had a new coach just 5 months ago. Again, that goes back to the incompetence at the level of Fekafoot.
Feeding
How
foul
would you, yes,
on the market day.
yeah, how would you, 5 months to go for a crucial competition like this, appoint a new coach? When do they have? When do this new coach? When will he have the time to get to know the players, bond with them? That chemistry amongst them. Where is the time for that? 5 months is not enough. So that was the crucial mistake they made. And I'm looking at the match today, for instance. I did not watch the match against Canada, but from the highlights, it appears they put up a tough defensive show against Canada, and they were only able to concede one goal. But today I watched the match, and I was like, who is that? Is that a coach or a spectator? He to me was absent. You cannot be playing, I would say, a game that is a do or die game, and you're standing at the sidelines as if nothing is going on. And then you look at the team itself. There was no coordination amongst them. Individually, they are good, but collectively, they sucked. Let me, if I can use that word. And then second of all, there was no leadership on the pitch itself. If you look at the men's team, for instance, when back in the days of Eto'o and Kulu and all, and Song Bahanak, at the back you would see Song Bahanak, talking to his defenders at the back. Hey, cover this guy and that. But I didn't see that with the Cameroon team. So it was like they played individually and there was no collectivity. They lacked leadership. The defense made a few defensive errors that were costly. They left players unmarked. The Dutch players, some of them unmarked, and they were just not convincing. At the level of the defense, and then going to the attack, I did not. The attack was impotent. It was just poor. What's her name? Terrence X. Is it?
Abudi Ongene.
Ongene, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's the only one that really impressed me.
Yeah.
The,
She
the,
always
the
impressed.
captain Christine was nowhere. I didn't even see her say a word or two.
Yeah,
Maybe I
she was
missed it.
actually a liability at the back.
Yeah.
I see that. Yeah.
And then Ngana Moat, I don't know what she was doing on the field. To me, I didn't see her do anything. And she was not substituted. So all those things, it was just, a combination of issues. They just couldn't pull it through. They did well equalizing after the
Yeah, the dot
immediately
code.
after the Dutch game. They did not lose their composure. They stayed composed and they equalized. But again, the defensive errors just cost them. And then the goalkeeper, for instance, they didn't impress me. So that in itself, they did not put up the kind of performance that I was expecting to see, coming from those competitions that they've been to in the past. And maybe, like I said, it's due to, not having enough time, not
Mhm.
enough preparation, with the friendlies and all. Now, as far as their remuneration, comparatively to the men, I don't think they are there yet. It's work in progress.
Yeah.
If we remember when back in the days, I was not, maybe I was a year or so, but I came to know that back in the days there was the lady that played with Roger Miller in Leopard Douala. Back in the days, they actually had a female playing with the men until in 1991 when Nations Cup was the Females Nations Cup was born and Cameroon took part. So it's come a long way, and I think as the years progress, more and more FIFA is doing its best to make sure that the funding is there and all. I think I just heard some of the games. A lot of the games have been sold out for this competition. So what I expect is that this year, they are getting say $1 million or whatever. Next year it's likely going to be different, and they have a reason to put forth their concerns, their complaints, and it's FIFA's responsibility to look into those concerns and make sure that they are addressed.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. So, Tres, you asked the lead the question. I know you've been a big fan of the Cameroon female national team of African football. I've been reading through your Facebook wall and I've seen a lot of information on the football. So, I know you've watched the game. So, can you give me your own assessment of the Cameroon's team? I know your girl Raisa is there kicking guys, ladies today. So, could you tell us your overall assessment and what are some of the differences you may have noticed between the team and their performance in 2015 in Canada and the current team?
Oh, okay. It's a long story. It's a long love affair with this team. I fell in love with this team. I fell in love with this team a long time ago. So I know this team inside out. I know their potential. And I when they put out that list and I saw Nganamuit, I was like, no player that hasn't played a competitive game in a year and a half should be on a list to go play the World Cup for no reason whatsoever. And it's showing. She's unfit. She doesn't know what to do. She's confused. She has a good heart, but it's not enough. Rice has put on a few weight. She's a good, phenomenal player, but she has gained weight. You understand? I watched this. They have an under 17 team that went to the round of 16, and I think they got beat by China or the US. They put up a good fight. Those kids, they were 15, 16-year-old. There's a lot of other teams in the World Cup that has stats to incorporate these kids. That would have been the team that they would have took. It would have not been a problem if we took those kids and lost with all of them. You understand? But it would have been a learning experience. These women the captain, Christine Manny, is 36, 37, 38 years old. She cannot be running with 22 years old no more. You understand? That keeper has been a liability since 2012. She has never been good. How can a country known for producing top quality goalkeepers have the worst goalkeeper 10 years in a row. That's why Cameroon has never won any title, because they don't have a keeper. They're playing 10 against 11, because any ball that goes to the pole is likely going to be a goal. You understand? So close games against Nigeria and everything comes down to that keeper. And they keep putting her. Alain Gifu, he just came out. I mean, he didn't come out of nowhere. He used to be one of the assistants with Ngacho. So he knows the team, but he doesn't have a strategy. Like Enow said earlier, sometimes you just think that because somebody has a credential, they're ready to coach. The man has no idea what he's doing. The team is chaotic. They have no strategy. I have never seen a Korean team, this female team, play in so much disorder. Even when they played the very poor African Nations Cup, you will see them move the ball from defense to midfield. And it's the same team. There are 2 or 3 people new in this team, right? So nothing has really changed much. But you see that they will build. But yeah, they're just kicking. Somebody kicked. I don't know how she didn't get a record. That this game would. I just turned my TV on. I'm like, this is the same thing that Song did when we played Croatia. How do you just take your boot and go smash somebody's head?
Yeah.
And I was like, what am I watching? This is not football.
To be fair, she missed the ball. She got the ball.
No player. What was she doing? Yeah. What action was that? Was there a threat to anybody? No. It was out of control, out of desperation. So they've disappointed me so much. And I don't believe that these people are able to build. They've never shown any characteristics that they're able. Enow said they cannot learn from their mistakes. This is a learning experience, right? That we failed. We failed at every possible level. Mm-hmm. Can we go back to the drawing board and start to grow? Like Elizabeth said, a lot of women are playing football right now. They have 800 and something women registered, and they have some of those girls actually playing Cameroon First Division, women First Division. But can they go and build, like when the original question I started asking, can they go back to the drawing board and say, what is our style of football? Can they use Enow as a foundation, a guy who understands female football, and say, build these kids, build the next generation of Cameroonian footballers? There's an Olympics coming up. Let's start to have a new generation of kids. No one over 22 should be playing on that team. We put in our own imprint on that football and bring up. I have never seen this team. They're the worst African team so far. I was so impressed by South Africa. I was impressed by Nigeria. Cameroon is a total disaster. Yeah. That's my say.
Okay. So, Enow, I know you've been discriminating against the female World Cup. So I think we probably should move to our next point. Something I know.
No, we should have Enow say a word. The women watching, Enow should tell us why he doesn't he doesn't care about female football. We want to know.
Is he a feminist?
It's not that I don't care. I don't care. I did my research. I saw that the Netherlands, they have one of the best trio in attack and all that. I watched the game Cameroon against who did they play? Canada. I saw that although you guys have been criticizing the keeper and all that, I saw that the team could not actually. They defended, they packed the boss, but they could not move the ball from the defense to the midfield. So there was there was no chemistry. So if you cannot move the ball from the defense to the midfield, you're trying to go long targets on the girl that was supporting the little girl. Is that yeah, I mean the tall girl. They were going long targets on her, but that was not working. I mean that was not working. But again, I cannot criticize those players because guess what? They are all individuals that can actually play the ball, but they are not. They are not the team. There's no continuity. There's no continuity, and that's the problem with African football. The whole of Africa doesn't. Only Nigeria alone has continuity. There's no continuity. So how do you expect the girls to get better from 4 years ago to no? They won't get better because Nganamwe, that was a talent because she whipped the ball. I saw the strike that she has. She still has one of the most powerful strikes of the ball because you remember she was the star scoring goals and all that. How do you get another Nganamwe? You guys think like I saw the defender. I think she's what's her name? Johnson,
the Texas lady.
Exactly. A lot of Cameroonians. That's American football. Most of those girls play in America.
Yeah.
You know, so we're stealing talent from America, and then when they wear the green, red, yellow, people say that's Cameroonian. It's just like the guy. What's the guy? Pascal Siakam, who actually came here at the age of 16 and all that. Then basketball here, and then you see Cameroonians, or you see the minister trying to control. These are the type of attitudes that we have to shame. If you don't shame them, you won't get better. Period.
Okay.
Thank you, Enow.
Yeah, thank you, Enow. And I think we need to learn from that. What Enow is saying is we need to build from home. We need to we need a foundation back home. That way you can easily progress. You shouldn't be stealing from other people. All these talents come from abroad. I know a couple of years ago, and we are going to talk about the men's football. We've been fighting talents with people who were born in France. And so the next item we'll be discussing to round off the show will be is the upcoming African Cup of Nations. So Cameroon is a host. The current
Egypt is the host.
No, it's not the host.
Cameroon are the current holders. I meant to say
Cameroon
current
failed.
holders. My apology. Yeah, Cameroon are the current holders. So they are the champions, and Egypt is the host because it glissade from Cameroon to Egypt, and so. Yeah, my question to you, Enow, I know you may have laid hands already on Clarence Seedorf's selection of 23 players. What is your hope and your overall assessment of this? What do you expect from this? Do you expect them to, how far do you expect them to get into this competition? So I will start with you, Enow, and then Elizabeth will also give us her own overall assessment and what she thinks this competition, this group of players can achieve, but also what she hopes they should achieve.
I see Cameroon is in the group with Benin, Ghana, and Guinea-Bissau. Their first game, I think, is against Guinea-Bissau. Then they play Ghana and then Benin. So I think Cameroon should progress actually through the first round. Although when I looked at the team and I saw names like, what's the guy's name? He played for Coton Sport and has always been a prospect. Jacques Zwa.
Jacques Zwa.
Yes. How can Jean Zwa still be playing in the national team?
Yeah, someone actually said he's never scored a goal for the national team.
Never.
Yeah.
Jean Zwa. I also saw the midfielder. What's his name? You see how much. You see how much I've lost.
Manjek.
You know who I'm talking about. I mean, there are names in that, but it's the problem of continuity. Look at last Nations Cup. Cameroon won last Nations Cup. A lot of people were surprised. I was surprised and all that. But that's why they call the Lions and Daughter, because the talent is there. Okay. But people are not giving credit. They fired the coach. They're not giving credit to the coach. Because what happened? The coach benched some key players. Kulu, Abubakar. You know, when their performance dropped, he benched them. And then that encouraged Abubakar scored against Egypt. So tactically, that Nations Cup was won by the coach. But what happened? Right? You have new management, you have new people who came in, and there's always this mafia going on in the national team where they had to, you know. But let's forget about that. Yes, I think Cameroon will actually progress to the next round. Then from there, anything can happen. Anything can happen, because when you play against Cameroon, they have the setting. I call that when you don't expect anything from them. Okay, that element, you don't expect anything from them. They will surprise you. So, but it doesn't mean that the football is actually getting better, because when I look at the team, I don't have interest watching them, because they're still putting players like, what's the other striker who plays for PSG? Choupo-Moting. They're still calling players like Choupo-Moting to come and play in the national team. They're calling Gaetan Bong. Is it Gaetan Bong, the left back?
Brighton. Yeah.
They're calling Kameni to come and play.
Yeah, I mean, that is going to be my next question before we go to Eli. Like, you've been talking about continuity, and for at least the past 2 decades, I should say, we've had Kameni for in that team. We know he's not going to be a starter, because Andre Onana should be the starter. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not a coach, but that is my opinion. So, do you think it was a good idea to to take Kameni to the competition?
No way. It's never. I mean, the guy. I don't even know he's playing in Turkey. He's still in. Some will say for experience or whatever. Don't take a player that you know you will not field. Okay. Never take a player that you know you will not put on the pitch, because if something happens and your two goalkeepers go down, then you'll have to put Kameni to catch. I mean, but again, it's that arrogance that the national is that arrogance, because why even? I mean, the national team is you just. I mean, I lack words to explain. Why you think Kameni? He's over there in Turkey. He doesn't even play, bro. He doesn't play. Last time I tried to watch Fenerbahce, I don't even know what team he's in. I tried to watch it, but I saw the dude was even sitting on the bench and maybe carrying a water bottles and that's someone you carry to go to the Nations Cup.
Yeah. Okay. So, Elizabeth, you attend. So, what do you think the Lions can? Yeah, you've heard the group. Their group. They are the current champions. Do you think they can go that far again this year? And what do you think they can do? And what do you think they can do? And what you hope they can do? I think those are two different things. So, I want you to give me an assessment of both of that. I know we all hope they should win the competition again. I mean, at least not me, anyway, because I think they shouldn't win anything.
First of all, I believe. I mean, they're gonna progress to the next round. That is, without a doubt. Luckily for them, two teams, can progress from each group.
Good.
So
Yeah.
I'm looking at Cameroon without a doubt progressing, and Ghana is definitely, gonna come with a fighting spirit because they are thirsty for that cup. It's been a while since they won the cup, so they too are gonna put up a fight, and hopefully there will be no surprises from Guinea and Guinea-Bissau and Benin, who do not pose a threat at this point, and get the Lions past the first stage. With respect to progressing all the way to the finals, I am not going to rule them out because we've seen, we've had surprises in the past. We know this team very well. When all hopes are lost, that's when they come with a surprise. And when we have all the confidence bestowed upon them, that's when they disappoint. So I'm at the point where I'm just gonna leave my options open. And like they surprised me in 2017, I'll say I'm 85% confident that they are gonna progress because looking at Africa, as a whole, and the last Nations Cup, we're talking about continuity. I think Africa as a whole is facing that issue. I have not been too current with what's happening in Nigeria and the other giants, the African football giants. But I think there is not been star players coming up like we used to have in the days of Eto'o and Drogba and all these guys in all the different countries. So no country at this point really poses any threat and really looks to be the country that is likely going to win. Now Egypt has
Salah.
they have Salah, who too has been around, coming with a Liverpool Champions League win. He's probably going to think he's got it under control, but we were able to subdue him in 2017, so he doesn't pose a threat to us either. And they have the home court advantage. We know how those fans up north are. They have the North African advantage and all. But I'm seeing a Cameroon Egypt finals.
Oh,
And
okay.
that's how overly optimistic I am. I'm
Yeah.
seeing a Cameroon Egypt finals. Yes, I am. And I believe Cameroon is still going to maintain the cup. And I'm saying that because I was looking at going through some of their videos the other day. They're at the training camp. I mean, I think they have a good spirit. They have a good spirit, togetherness. That's what I got out of it. They seem to have that good relationship with Seedorf and Clovert. They are both young coaches and they're dynamic, and you know so there seems to be a chemistry going on there, and that's one of the most important things for any team. there has to be that chemistry. And even among the team players themselves, there is that chemistry. I think one of them even talked about the unity that is keeping them together is one of the determining factors that's going to see them go far. You know, there's been no scandal this far unless I'm not updated. You know, in the past we had issues that would impact their performance, like, you know, players not getting their bonuses or whatever, their money up front and all of that. We
Yeah,
haven't had any of those, right?
yeah, it is not there as well. So that is
So it's
something.
not there. Okay.
Yeah, so that's
So we
somebody.
haven't had any of those. So far things have been nice and calm. Fekafoot seems to be getting its act together. Things have been nice and calm. There have been no scandals that could impact, you know, player morale. The players look fit physically. We saw, even though you know, during the friendlies they drew against Mali, but Mali is not an easy team. So, you know, I'm satisfied with that draw. They beat what was the other team? Zambia the other day, 1-0. I expected more from them. And it's also good to see that we have other people that, you know, during the friendlies were able to score. You know, that tells me that we are not reliant on Chupomoting as our main scorer, right? We have a Kambi and what's the other guy that scored, and one of them was left out. So there is that hope, and I strongly believe that if they keep that together, that unity together, and there are no issues within the camp, and you know, the dynamics with the coaches and the chemistry, if that stays in place, I really do see Cameroon going far to the finals and lifting the trophy.
Wow, that's impressive. Yeah, Trace.
Yeah, it's a new format. 24 teams from the 16, so it's going to be a harder tournament. And I listened keenly as Elizabeth brushed off Guinea and Benin. That's a classical thing not to do. Um, those those teams, they're coming to also impress, you know, and those are the teams that come. You have no film for them. You have no knowledge of them, and they surprise you with a 1-0 kind of score line, and you carry arrogance that you're Cameroon, and then you go there and you get beat. Um, you get whooped, and you're third in the group, and you know that, and that's usually our arrogance, and at least not, it's not geared to you, but it's usually our arrogance to not see the little guy standing next to us, and then the little guy surprises us. Um, this team, I watched them through qualifiers. There was no pressure when they started the qualifiers because they think their government was going to give them a Nations Cup, but their government failed them, and they had to win. They had to win. They won all their games, even playing without pressure. I think they lost to Morocco or something. But so the last game against the Comoros Island, they had to win. I watched it away and home. Was I impressed? It's a qualifier. You don't take a lot from there. I would have to see from game one and game two how they play. I don't know. I don't know. Sidolf has not convinced me yet. Tactically, I see them win. He's just not won me over. I need to see a flow of games. I don't know where I'm at right now with where they're going to be. So I'm hung out. I'm gonna root for them. But I'm also gonna like to see the little guys show up. I'm always a supporter of the little guys like Kenya, guys like Guinea-Bissau, Benin. I mean, Benin have some good players that play in the EPL. I mean, there's no Cameroonian that plays in the EPL right now except Guy Tembom. The guy at Fulham doesn't really play. So if you have guys from Kenya and Benin and those kind of places playing the EPL, you cannot undermine a team like that. Cameroonian players, we looked at the list the other day and we were laughing the different clubs that they play in, and we're like, Jesus Christ, where are some of these teams located? You know, so it will be a fun summer watching the Female World Cup and the Nations Cup. So I hope to have fun, and I know Enow is gonna add the Copa America to his tally too. So yeah. So I can't give you a rating where I think Cameroon is gonna end.
Okay. Yeah. For me, I hope they don't win because then it will just make a lot of Cameroonians generating a lot of effervescence for a very, very bad team.
Yeah, They'll think they're so invincible.
But if teams like Ghana, Senegal, Egypt, because Nigeria, because those are my favorites, if those teams actually come to play, then there's no way Cameroon can actually win this Nations Cup, because I know Senegal, Mane is on fire. Senegal has better chances.
I know we can talk about that if you really want us to talk about that, because the same Senegal Cameroon beat them. Mane was there. The goalkeeper didn't have a shot on goal.
But let me tell you why Cameroon beat them. Remember, I told you about the coach, right?
Yeah.
The guy didn't get credit. A lot of guys didn't give that guy credit.
But to Terence's point, that those are not the reasons. We have always seen Senegal and Ivory Coast, those two teams, high-profile players playing in the best leagues in the world, but they cannot gel.
14. Teams are different. Like the Nations Cup that 2017 team won. That is a less talented Cameroon team ever to win a Nations Cup.
Okay? And the reason
the reason they won it is because of what the coach did. It's not because of Cameroon. No, it's because of what the coach did.
Tactically,
when you analyze a game, you should be able to see those things and give credit where it's due.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and especially bringing a player like the Belgian boy who plays in Scotland, Jum, in the midfield. That was a very big decision, and it was very tactical. He tactically manned the midfield.
Do you know who Tambe, to bench Abubakar for Tambe?
Yeah.
Do you know what that means? If you lose the game, you get fired. But do you know where you get that guts to see that Tambe can do lots of work? Then you just bring Abubakar, his lazy self, to come and kill the game. That is talent.
Oh, and since you brought that up, let me. Elizabeth has started. She was talking about tribalism and nepotism and all of that stuff that's in Cameroon's sports. But Eli, you would agree with me, and we would kind of round it up because we're at the end of the show right now, that Anglophones make up a small minority of Cameroon. And in that small minority, a lot of them don't play football at the very high level. And they're not very disciplined as compared to the French brothers. So I don't know what player pool we're going to pull 4 or 5 Anglophones from.
Can I answer you?
Yes, please.
That's where I talk about grassroots football. You start building those 2,000 seat stadiums from Manfé, or you build it in Bissamabang, because Manfé is not important. From Bissamabang to Mancon, if you have a stadium, if kids can see good pitches around their locality, that's what's going to motivate them, because the best athletes come out from poverty, from the ghettos. That's why you have the best athletes. So if you can carry those facilities close to where they are, where they can play on it and get competitive and see what it means by playing, you will have, no one is born with skills of being a very good footballer. You have to, even the best have to play every day to get better. Okay? So for me, tribalism, no, I don't even want to talk about that. But if you put everybody on the playing field to compete at the high level, then you will start see things like that paying dividend.
All right. Thank you, guys.
So on the issue of tribalism, Trias, have you ever asked yourself why the only 3 Anglophone tribes that have been, part of this Cameroon national team are the Bayangis, the Bakweris, and the Bakosis? It has been that consistent.
I have never asked because I have never known. I have an answer.
You have 5 with Banso, and he's in the current squad. He played all the games in the last squad. So
yeah, let me answer, and that's a valid answer. Collins Fire is Banso, but to your thing, I look at a player pool. I follow this team. You look at a player pool. What player has ever been left out that you know it's a good Anglophone player playing at a high level, and they left him out because
Yeah, I support you. I don't think it's a problem of tribalism. I just think the field, the playing field is not actually level, because since I grew up, if you look in the Northwest South, what field can you really associate yourself and say, okay, this is gonna motivate me to go play football? This is gonna motivate, because my Basa brothers, that when I used to live in Basa land, those guys from when they were 5 years, 6 years, they knew that they wanted to play football. That was their path. So it's a cultural thing. That was their path. The Francophones put more effort. It was a cultural. Meanwhile, in the Anglophone areas, no, your dad doesn't want you. So those are things, when you grow up with those things, it's motivation. Anglophones are motivated to instead go schooling and all that, do something, not football. But those things are actually changing. But in order to get the playing field level, you have to build facilities in those areas that will motivate kids, not from doing because now how do Yahoo boys to go and play football, and that has to be with grassroots football. If you can pay a player in Cameroon maybe $200, 200,000 CFA, and he knows that can actually take care of his family even without him traveling abroad, the level of football will actually increase, and you will see competition all around the globe.
All right, thanks, guys. We've come up to the end of the show. We're just going to round it up right now, and I'll have you guys have your last words. For the perspective of things, the future, is it bright? Is it doom? From everything, I think Enow, it's kind of doom, but convince me otherwise. What do you think? What's the perspective of? Give me an outlook. 5 years, 10 years for Cameroon.
Well, I think it's doomed, because if you see people like Samuel Eto'o, okay, because let's talk about Samuel Eto'o. That's someone who has a very big platform and all that. But when it comes with CAF, he's part of the failed CAF organization, the Nations Cup organization, because those guys are not honest. Those guys are about filling their pockets. He was the one, you see, Roger Miller was actually crying foul. He said that Samuel Eto'o doit être avec les anciens pros, okay? But he could not speak loud because he also has been eating with the same government that has failed the system. So you see, there's a mafia, around that Cameroon football that is actually hard to crack. So except these old heads go away, then you have the younger generations getting involved, or then you have business, because no matter what we do, okay, football or whatever sports, it's an entertainment business.
Yep.
Where you get people entertained. If they're liking the entertainment, they will spend money to pay, no matter the prices. That's why I said that you build small stadiums and let people get involved. You're making football for your community and not for kids to go play abroad, because no one actually, African footballers are the least paid because no one respects them, because they don't have something to fall back on. So our mentalities, if they don't change, and the way I see it is not changing, because no one is talking about grassroots football. They're only looking on about international football when there's a competition, or because FIFA is gonna give money, the government CAF is gonna give money. It's time to go steal and all that. So I don't see, it's bleak. 5 years, 10 years is bleak.
Thank you.
Then
Elizabeth, I heard I had a more optimistic tone from you. I don't know if I was wrong, but convince me otherwise.
Well, I think the future is bright, but that is contingent upon a couple of things. First of all, the issue of corruption needs to be seriously dealt with. We have to do everything in our capacity to make sure that people are more accountable and responsible, and that the government is more reactive or more proactive and not be reactive.
Yeah.
Yes, the government needs to be more proactive and not reactive. They should not wait for all hell to break loose before they start taking actions and throwing people in jail and all whatnot. Where were they when all the things were going on? So we need to be able to see those changes from the top. When those changes are effected at the top, then we will be able to see changes at the bottom. Because ultimately, the decisions that influence whatever happens at the bottom are coming from the top. If the top is bad, the bottom is not going to hold. So that's number one. Number two, the private sector itself needs to develop and not wait for the government. Now, I know we have to work hand in hand with the government. The government has to have, provisions in place that are going to allow the private sector to do what they want to do. So that has to be that collaboration between the government and the private sector, and put things in place that would enable us to develop our local leagues. Local leagues are mostly owned by businessmen.
Yep.
Right? They're mostly owned by businessmen. And so if the provisions are not in place to enable these businessmen to be able to take these risks and pump money into this thing, then it's not going to happen. Because there are a lot of people with lots of money in Cameroon that can own leagues and can make things happen, but they are not willing to, and because of just the way things are being handled in Cameroon. Second of all, if those local leagues ever become, if they ever develop to a certain level, they have to be able to, they have to be sustainable. The players have to be able to pay a remuneration that would allow them to earn a living. They should be able to see it as a source of income for themselves. Our players right now, they are underpaid. And I don't know what it's going to take, but maybe it would have to be a situation where the government would have to be able to subsidize some of the programs that are going to come up. However, the private sector are going to be creative in coming up with some of those things. Government can subsidize and make sure that these local players are paid so that they do not leave. Because the reason why they leave and go international is because of money. One, exposure, they get to get the exposure they require and they need, and second of all, they get to pay more. So we really cannot blame them. So until we get to a stage where the local league is there and they are being paid well, we're not going to see anything happen. And I believe that's pretty much where I am with the future. And of course, we as Cameroonians, we just have to take responsibility for our own actions. I think we are part of our problem, quite honestly. We
All
are
right.
part of our problem. It's another topic of its own, but our mentality has to change.
All right. I'll give
You
Terrence.
definitely be invited back in the future to discuss that part of the problem. So stay tuned.
Right.
I'll
Terrence,
be
I'll
glad to
give you
do
the
that.
closing remarks. I just want to announce the next show that we're working on. Elizabeth touched on it, doing business in Cameroon. So we're calling on business people in Cameroon, lawyers, taxation guys. If you're interested to join the show, we would like to have a show on doing business in Cameroon, some of the trust issues, the misconceptions, the laws on taxation. So if you're a tax expert, send myself, Tres Catos, an email or inbox, or send Terrence Agbo an inbox, or any other panelists, Omar Bayen, Frunix, Deep. One of our other hosts is taking some time for some family emergencies right now. So I'll just for right now have her family time. So that we can schedule a date for doing business. I think it's going to be a very important topic that we can have. So we know those in the diaspora that want to go back home and invest have a sense. Elizabeth touched on us not doing enough as the private sector to take ownership of that environment. So we need to first understand the environment and how that environment operates to be able to take that initiative. So that said, I'll be looking forward to have so many people want to be part on that platform. It's going to be a roundtable, and we'll talk on that, and then we'll pick up a date once we've had the candidates that we want to share that information with. Terrence, I will go ahead and give us your closing remarks.
Okay, yeah, thank you very, very much, Enow and Elizabeth. Thank you for coming to the show. We were very, very pleased to have you, and hope you guys enjoy the discussion. We disagree to agree, and hopefully the powers that be, someone is listening out there to see how he extracts some of the useful information we may have presented here today with respect to Cameroon football. All we wish for is for happiness and a good result for the Cameroon team. I wish them the best, but I really don't think they can win, especially the male team. I honestly don't think they
say
can
that.
win. And also, I really don't want them to win because they will start carrying their shoulders up. And then to our audience, so this is very important to our audience. We are very, very grateful for all your donations, the donations you sent to the Aya Foundation. So last week we closed our GoFund page, and we collected the money you donated, and we sent the Aya Foundation, I think, 400,000 francs. In the next few days, he will be sending us a receipt, which we'll post on our page for you to see what we did. So we very much appreciate all your efforts, and we are very, very grateful for everything you did to those people internally and both the externally displaced people in Cameroon. Thank you once more for your donations. And in the next few weeks, like Tres mentioned, we'll have a series of shows for business as well as healthcare in Cameroon. Thank you once more. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming to our show, and hope you enjoyed it. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Hasta la vista.
Peace.